Not again! JNet is down. I guess that means I can't present to you any JNet games today. In that case, well, let's just head over to Reddit and let's do some mock answers to some of the threads that are on Netrunner's Reddit. What card should I get to support Jemison? Well, if you need a support, you should get a support helpline for Losers Anonymous. Ain't gonna win any games if you're forfeiting your win condition. How to build and play Shaper decks? Don't. Advice on basic attributes for IDs? Well, I suppose this guy is saying what are the characteristics of each faction. Well, criminals are rich. Anarchs are rich as well. You see them often running in competitive decks, cards like Count Cypher and Temujin, therefore Anarchs are rich as well. Shapers, well, they gain lots of clicks. Yeah? HB gains lots of clicks as well. Jinteki, well, they do lots of net damage. NBN? NBN has good card draw. They have good burst econ. They have good asset econ. They can kill. They can fast advance. They can swap agendas with tags. They're pretty good. Yeah. No fun versus I lost. Well, get good. Win your games. Don't have to worry about losing. Flavor fluff wise, what's the justification for being able to click through Bioroid subs? Well, you can think of it as the runner mingling and socially interacting with the Bioroid eyes. I mean, lots of the Bioroid eyes are characters, right? Like Eli's, Itchies, you know? As menacing as they look, you know, you can actually socialize with them, get a bit of networks and try to, you know, get an entry pass or something, you know, let them close one eye, allow you to get past their eyes. It's kind of like Troll as well, even though Troll is not a Bioroid Ice, it's an ambient ice, but that also forces you to lose a click. You can think of the Troll as something like, I don't know, some trolls standing on a bridge and asking, "You shall not pass unless you can answer this question. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?" Do you know? Theophilus Backbiter, a new Netrunner podcast from Robin Shamers. What? Not again? Too many podcasts? Get in the bin. Which of these cards should I slot for protection and criminal? Really? Really? Are you asking for protection cards in criminal? I was just talking about color pies, wasn't I? And flavor-wise, criminals are meant to be aggressive, offensive. They don't really care about their rig destroying or themselves getting burnt up. I mean, have you ever seen a real-life criminal barge into a bank or a shop wearing full body armor and a helmet, you know, like as a soldier's helmet or something? No one does that. Criminals do play stealthily, quickly, and aggressively. Who cares about protection? It's overrated. And if you have slot protection in criminal, you are losing flavor points right there. Okay, that's enough. Just to be clear, if it wasn't evident already, I am just trolling. A lot of my answers are not actually actual responses. I'm just being cheeky, and obviously all of you should go listen to Rob and Seamus' podcasts because they're awesome. But on a more serious note, a lot of threads on Reddit I see have a lot of players still classifying decks into their respective factions rather than archetypes like kill or fast advance. A lot of people are still stuck on the lines of factions, and it's very natural. They should. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Netrunner is a game with a lot of flavor, and by extension, each faction should exude its own flavor. And when people get confused about the flavor of factions, that's when you know the game is, not heading in a very good direction, because that's when both casual and competitive players alike can't really see, don't get any, flavor out of the game, basically. But as negative as I sound, I actually think the Netrunner designers are doing a very good job of maintaining the flavor in each faction, at least for this cycle of Flashpoint. Let's look at the corp side. As I mentioned earlier, HB is all about gaining clicks, but also about click compression. Things like ETF scream efficiency. Efficiency Committee has the word efficiency in its name. And you see that the cards from this cycle embody that, with click compression being the name of the game, doing lots of stuff in a single click with their operations. Jinteki was all about net damage, and we get more of that than ever before in this cycle. So many net damage cards to support the the 1000 cards archetype. And NBN, needless to say, has definitely gone up a notch or two with their tag-based strategies. There's a lot more tagging mechanisms and tag punishment available in NBN. So, I mean, as much as people are whining about the state of the game as it is, I think one thing a lot of people are overlooking is that the devs are doing a very good job of maintaining or even making more prominent these distinctions between each faction. Each faction has a very strong characteristic to it, and I think you'll all agree with that. Same thing on the runner side. Criminals have big money and lots of tag avoidance now. They are very strong at that, and we just got an entire deck archetype in a single cycle with the smoke stealth suite. This Flashpoint cycle, you can basically build an entire smoke deck out of just this pack alone. It's amazing. So to those who are thinking that this game is dying, well, the flavor is stronger than ever, I would argue. Now, Anarchs, you notice I deliberately left out of the equation because I think this is one area which was a bit lacking this cycle. To me, Anarch screams destruction. High impact things like Stim Hack or Stim Dealer that give you a lot of boost, but at some sort of downside, with some sort of downside with that is significant. But we didn't really get that this cycle. We have the Conspiracy Breakers, which, while thematic in itself, doesn't really scream Anarch to me. Sure, they all install from Archives, and Archives is meant to be the server of Anarchs, but do these feel anarchistic to you? I didn't think so. No, they don't feel like Anarch Breakers at all. They don't feel destructive, they don't feel disruptive, and those are just the tip of the iceberg. There's still worse cards that I just can't wrap my head around being read, like Omar. What does Omar have to do with Anarch besides the Archives bit? It has a Sneak Door Beta S effect. Shouldn't it be more criminal? Rumor Mill, especially this kitty, it doesn't make sense. Obolus, Obolus protects you, but Anarchs are meant to play more brazenly. They are meant to embrace damage and everything. So I don't really get the design of the Anarch faction this cycle. That is my one pet peeve with the faction, with the faction-based design. All the other factions seem pretty good, and the design has only been strengthened this cycle, but Anarch's a bit lacking. And one thing very important about deciding which traits to emphasize in each faction is that at the end of the day, each faction still needs to have the basic necessities. You can't just give all the good eyes to a faction because that leaves the other factions unplayable. You need eyes to play. And again, the game designers did a very good job of making sure that every faction can sustain itself this cycle. Every faction got some very good eyes, not just one piece of ice or anything. Each faction got a decent low range ice and a mid range ice. And this is quite important because this enables a diversity of strategies within each faction. You can play a very rush style and Jinteki deck that uses very cheap ice and has a rather lean econ package, or go for a more acid spam strategy like what Dave Coleman did in the UK versus US top deck showdown. The RP deck, Alcatraz, that spams lots of assets to gain lots of money and then uses mostly big eyes like Komainus, DNA Trackers, and Chiashis. So you see that by having a large range of eyes available, good eyes at that, for each faction, you can enable a wide variety of archetypes. And this is one thing I really appreciate about this cycle. You can play strong glacier or you can play fast light ice. I like that. Unfortunately, there is still work to be done. There's still room for improvement. I look at cards like Sensi Actors Union and the whole host of other card draw effects from the NBN faction. Cards like Special Offer, DBS, and obviously, and very notably, Jackson Howard. Card draw seems to be a very NBN thing. A lot of card draw effects on the corp side are mostly NBN, especially the good ones, and this is a big problem. All corps could use card draw. Card advantage is a thing in Netrunner. And by restricting it to a faction, you are making that faction a head above the rest. And this is why Ambient has been so dominant for the past few months. This is something that they need to work on. I feel that every faction should have some decent card draw. And don't tell me Heritage Committee or Hasty Relocation is good card draw, because it isn't. That is barely card draw. Similarly, Temujin Contract seems to be a problem. It is an economy card, and strong as it is, and in the right faction as it is, every faction needs economy. Whether you're playing Shaper or Anarch, you do need economy. Now I know that being rich is a criminal thing, but it feels like every faction is just gonna play 2 or 3, even 3 copies of Temujin right now because it's such a strong card. And this dilutes the faction pie to an extent, which is something I find a bit lamentable because of the big disparity in power. Now, I try not to talk about power levels too much, but this is a situation where it has to be roped in, and it is quite clear that Temujin has skewed a lot of runner deck building to the point where Temujin is basically an auto-include, and that's not a very healthy sign. It erodes the faction uniqueness. Why bother playing criminal when everyone can be rich by splashing Temujin Contract? So, yeah, I feel that this is something that could be improved. I would like to see some sort of Anarch card that gives lots of money but has a big downside. That could be something good that emphasizes Anarchs. You know, something like maybe something destructive to the Anarchs if they were to gain money. And Shapers maybe... Well, Shapers have a pretty good economy package right now with the Stealth Suite, as I mentioned earlier. It's going to be quite hard to design, don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, Netrunner is still a very hard game to design. But I would like to see... the basics, icebreakers, money, and card draw to be rather uniform across all factions. If you think of the basic card draw cards, Diesel, I've Had Worse, and Fisk, they're roughly level. Every faction has access to them. Obviously, Fisk is a lot so-called worse than the other two, but at least each faction has their options. And this is something I'd like to see replicated across all factors, card draw, money, and ice and icebreakers alike. So hopefully we'll see more of that in the upcoming Red Sand cycle. I'll be looking forward to that. Didn't think that this video would take a serious twist after all the jokey Reddit responses, did you? Well, hope you found this interesting, and hopefully Jinteki.net will come back up so that I can play more games. Well, till then, thanks for watching and happy net running. I'll see you around.